Most of Week 9 is in the books, and it started back on Thursday night between the Eagles and Texans, and credit the Texans for keeping this game as close as they did. The talent on the rosters between Philly and Houston is not that close, and over the course of a 60-minute game, it showed. Davis Mills threw an ugly interception near the end of the game, and a great team capitalized on a not great team's mistake. This was also a really good game for tight end Dallas Goedert, as he was the lone player with 100 yards receiving. The Texans honestly did a solid job defending both A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith as they combined, not each, as they combined for 6 catches for 81 yards and a touchdown. They also did a good job containing Jalen Hurts in the ground game. As for Houston, in what is very much a rebuilding year, Dameon Pierce is everything. He has it. He's such a good player, and as cliche as this sounds, when you watch him run, you know he's a good back and a good football player. He's only 22 years old, and this is a player I hope they keep around for a long time, and when they do end up selecting a quarterback, presumably in the top 2 or 3 picks, assuming that will be CJ Stroud or Bryce Young, they will have a very, very good running back to lean on as they go through their first few NFL seasons. I cannot emphasize enough how good Dameon Pierce is. The Raiders are 2-6 and lost to the team that has had back-to-back number 1 overall picks. Their lone 2 wins are against the Broncos and Texans. They're a mess. They're done. Derek Carr is not the answer. The defense is bad, and they gave up 20 unanswered points to end this game, with all of the expectations they had entering this year. To me, they are the most disappointing team in the NFL through 9 weeks. I did a video on them last week, and it will be placed at the end of this video for those interested. There's a chance they pick in the top 5 or 6 picks in the 2023 NFL Draft. For Jacksonville, this is the type of win you build on, and I don't mean for a potential playoff run this year, but something to build on in 2023 and beyond. This team came back down 17 points when they could have rolled over. Trevor has had a lot of questions surrounding him recently, but he came through. And Travis Etienne is this team's starting running back for the next few years. They shut out the Raiders in the second half and came out with a huge win. Chargers-Falcons is up, and the biggest takeaway I have from this game for Atlanta is they are not far off from competing not just for a wildcard spot or a division win in a down year for the NFC South, but legitimately competing. Their run game is insane, and they ran for over 200 yards against the Chargers, led by Tyler Algier and Cordero Patterson. This is a topic for another video, but with the Raiders struggling and Marcus Mariota clearly not being the answer, he is a bridge quarterback, Derek Carr to Atlanta is something to keep in the back of your head. Is that me predicting it will happen? Absolutely not, but you never know. As for LA, this is the type of game they usually lose, but a win is a win, and a very ugly win. But in the AFC, the Chargers are 5-3 and have a wild card spot they desperately need in sight. Them and another team we are now going to discuss. The New York Jets beat the Buffalo Bills with a score of 20-17. There's no easy way to say this, but Josh Allen played bad. The first interception was awful and definitely cost the team at least a field goal. Having said that, this game does not solely fall on Josh, and I want that to be clear. They had a few key defensive starters out. Tyler Bass missed a field goal. Gabe Davis had a couple of drops. Kyer Elam played like a rookie, which is going to happen, and this, in a lot of ways, resembled the infamous Jags game from last year. These types of games, even for the Bills, are going to happen over the course of a 17-game season. For New York, Michael Carter looked good, Garrett Wilson looked good, they ran the ball well, and did this of course without Breece Hall. For everyone that doubted the Jets heading into this game, the Jets this time around get the last laugh. They're 6-3 and the playoffs are not out of the equation. If you guys did not know, the Joe Mixon show was on full display on Sunday afternoon as he had 5 total touchdowns. This was the type of game the Bengals needed after their performance on Monday against the Browns. Joe Mixon had a very slow start to the year as he was averaging just 2.7 yards per carry through the first 4 games. But on a short week and in a game that was a must-win for Cincinnati because they couldn't afford to drop to 4-5, they got a much-needed win. I know Bengals fans have this in the back of their mind, and I do too, but guys, Evan McPherson concerns me. For Carolina, 2023 cannot come soon enough. PJ Walker finished 3 of 10 for 9 yards and had 2 interceptions. Baker made the score more respectable, I guess, but this is not a good team. Panthers fans are very much Lions and Texans fans as well for the rest of the year, and we all get to see them play on Thursday night against the Falcons. Colts Patriots is up, and for Indy, this is short and ugly. Fire Frank Reich. Don't prolong it for 3 more games or 5 more games or till Black Monday. 19 points combined in the past 2 games and 29 in the past 3 have resulted in 3 straight losses. They're 3-5-1 and do not look like they're a step or 2 away. They look bad. And I get Sam Ehlinger started in week 9 and Jonathan Taylor was out as well. But when you know, you know. They gave up 9 sacks to the Patriots, had 121 total yards of offense on 60 plays, had a blocked punt, missed a field goal, and brace for this, guys, they were 0 of 14 on 3rd down. Fire Frank Reich. As for New England, their defense played an insanely dominant game. The offense wasn't great by any metric, but they didn't have to be. I am worried about their offense for the future of this team, but in a game they won 26-3 and potentially got an opposing team's head coach fired, I'm not going to be overly critical. I do want it to be noted that I have concerns with their offense, though. From Boston and technically Foxborough to the Windy City we go to discuss Dolphins Bears. Yes, the Bears are 3-6. Yes, the Bears lost another game. No, they're not going to make the playoffs this year, especially after trading Roquan Smith and Robert Quinn. But they may have a franchise quarterback. Justin Fields had over 300 total yards on Sunday and 4 total touchdowns. And for a franchise, no offense Bears fans, but for a franchise that has been lethargic at times offensively, this is beyond exciting times because I do think they have their long-term guy. Sure, it's going to take a year or 2 before they compete heavily in the NFC, but they look to have a legit player they can build around. For the Dolphins, Tua is that guy. If you don't believe in the Dolphins at this point, truly, what's holding you back? Tua had another 300-yard passing game, and Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle are the best receiving duo this year. They are in the conversation with the Chiefs and Bills at this point in time. Kirk Cousins' return to Washington was a very interesting game. The Commanders' defensive line, led by Jonathan Allen, is ferocious, and they got after Kirk a lot. When the Commanders took a 17-7 lead, and based on how the flow of the game was going, I very much thought the game was over because the Vikings' offense could not get anything going. Harrison Smith had a very timely interception, and the Vikings outscored Washington 13-0 after this. Good teams find ways to win games, and this has been the story for the 2022 Vikings. They play Buffalo in Buffalo next week, so for everyone wanting them to lose, you'll have to wait at least 1 more week for that opportunity. As for Washington, this is an insanely frustrating loss. They dominated for 2.5 quarters. Despite being 17-7, and aside from the Vikings' first drive, this game was theirs to lose, and unfortunately they did lose it. Moral wins are not anything anyone wants to hear, especially in a division with 3 teams with 6 wins, but their defensive line can legitimately take over and control football games, and when Chase Young comes back, they will be a team no one wants to play. The Green Bay Packers are 3-6 through their first 9 games, and once upon a time, they were 3-1. Aaron Rodgers threw 3 interceptions, and this is about as low as it can get for Green Bay. I thought that the lowest point was going to be a 3-5 start for them, with an understandable loss in Buffalo last week, and thought this would be a get-right game for them. But they had a few long drives end in interceptions, including one where Aiden Hutchinson intercepted a pass intended for left tackle David Bakhtiari. The Packers are transitioning into another era, and their season is done. As for Detroit, the quote from Dan Campbell after the game summed it up. "I'm exhausted, and I want to go home and drink a beer." And Dan, to that I say enjoy it. The Lions are now 2-0 in their last 2 games against the Packers, and they picked Aaron Rodgers off 3 times in the red zone. For the Dan Campbell era, this is what you build on a 2-6. And Lions fans know if there's one game you win all year, it would be against the Packers. Seattle traveled to Glendale for a division game against the Cardinals in Week 9, and for Arizona, this is pretty short. I will never understand why both Steve Keim and Cliff Kingsbury were given extensions prior to this season. They're 3-6 on the year and 0-3 in the division and their season, and for me personally, guys, it's been over for a while. But thinking out loud, if 10 wins is the magic number to make the playoffs, they'd have to go 7-1 the rest of the way just to get in, and that's not going to happen. A new start is needed in Arizona from a front office standpoint. Seattle is a good team. There's no asterisk, there's no yeah but, there's no how long till Geno stinks a few games up. I'm not getting into, oh well, how will Seattle do against Dallas or San Francisco when it matters. This is a very good year for them, they're a good team, and they're playing good football, period. The rematch of the divisional round of the playoffs was the 425 game, and it had a different outcome than last year. The Rams have dropped to 3-6, and the Raiders and the Packers are done by Week 10. LA did not score a touchdown in the second half. The Bucs had several dropped passes, and Raheem Morris could have called a better game defensively. The soft zone at the end against Tom is inexcusable. They have no offensive line, no run game, and they're very much done. They do not have a first-round pick this year, and the future of this team is going to be interesting to watch. As for Tampa, I do think the offensive line will limit what this team can do in terms of their full maximum potential. And if you watch this team play, you know what I mean. Tom is under pressure a lot, and a lot of the time he simply checks it down. But good for Tampa on the win, and I'm not getting ahead of myself with Tom and the Bucs, but Byron Leftwich I do believe will be gone at some point. I don't think he's a good coordinator, and it shows time and time again. And for as flawed as this team is, they're a few bad plays or mental mistakes away from being 6-3 or even 7-2. I don't think they are the Bucs of the last 2 years, but this team has not performed to where they can, and this win could be the start of something and could turn it around. That's all I have for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Until next time, as always, please be safe and have a great day. Love you guys.